Activists, artists, and citizens from nearly all walks of life and perspectives have struggled to reach beyond the limits of mainstream media. Whether it's Fox News or the New York Times, Rush Limbaugh or Brian Williams, people say they are tired of being talked to or overlooked. They seek to exercise their own rights to free speech, to fulfill a need to hear from independent voices. They exercise their rights and fulfill their needs by creating new avenues for speech, by inventing new forms of communication, and by seizing the microphone to speak to their community. This movement did not begin and does not end with the internet or social media. It is a movement as old as the dawn of mass media. This series will highlight the contributions of alternative media and the challenges citizens face in a political environment that seems to reward only those with the most money, a political environment that does not necessarily reward those with the best ideas or those who serve the critical information needs of their community. We're looking beyond mainstream media. My name is Mark Lloyd. I'm the director of the Media Policy Initiative here at the New America Foundation. This is a program on the largest expansion of community radio this country has ever seen. We're going to be interviewing several folks. Catherine Grinswich with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, G. Lewirsky with Prometheus Radio Project, and Liz Humes, founder of WRIR-LP.
Everybody's voting for the friendly voice of radio, the people's choice. Music, weather, sports, and news, it's radio. The people choose. Everybody's singing the swinging voice of radio, the people's choice. Big fry, small fry.
When we don't have the media, or the media is controlled by another group that doesn't have our side of the story, our perspective, our community interest, and other people hear from them, and we have nothing to combat that. We don't have our own radio station, our newspaper to put our truth out there, our version, our perspective out there. Then, in a way, they control the battle.
We have to fight for those spaces. Like we as social justice movement builders need to really own spaces and be able to control narratives because we believe that like the people know how to tell their own stories and they know the solutions to their own problems.
How do we get accurate information to our folks? How do we have authentic conversations across borders and boundaries that divide us?
I think community radio is one of the tools that can really start bringing folks together to get in the practice of working with each other and to get in the habit of leading dialogue and sharing information about issues that's important to where we are.
They actually have to look at themselves and tell and hear their own stories.
Then you start to see people kind of open up and they become proud of who they are.
And so if we had our own radio station where the people could call in and talk about what they're going through, how they're being mistreated, how the injustice that's going on, it would be an outlet that would be an in-source and an outsource at the same time that could release and get out to the world some of the things that are going on in that area.
This really is about telling the stories and using the stories to push policy so that folks can really build a world that includes their visions.
And that's one of the promises of Low Power FM, is that you can set the criteria that you won't play buffoonery, you won't play music that advocates violence.
Because that's not the only music that's out there, but that's what's been put in mainstream radio. And that's another reason why the radio station is so important, so you can hear different voices, you can hear positive messages.
It's just about like channeling all that creative energy. Like there's so much energy and talent out there that it just needs to be like streamlined.
To organize, galvanize, and educate community stakeholders and policymakers.
That helps our community to grow.
And preserve the cultural identity of our neighborhoods.
Sería mejor también que haya más estaciones de radio comunitarias a nivel del país. Y creo que ayudaría a todas las organizaciones en diferentes partes de tener una sola voz y tener muchas estaciones comunitarias para cada campaña en diferentes luchas, y así es más fácil comunicar con todos.
I
support.
I definitely
I
support.
support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I do support. I support.
I support.
Yo apoyo la radio comunitaria.
Community radio.
Community radio. Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio, 100%.
Community radio.
Community radio.
Community radio, 100%.
Low-powered, people-powered community radio.
We need community radio. Don't you think so?
Why is this a big deal?
You know,
You get emotional about it.
I do. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it in just the relationships that I've been able to build through the station that I've worked at, and I've seen what impact it can have in the community. And I imagine that and that's just at a station that predominantly operates as a music-driven station. And so when I think of other stations that have other varied kinds of missions to their work and what can be accomplished there, and what Prometheus seen that has been accomplished, and other communities across the U.S., it's overwhelming. I feel like a couple standout examples always get mentioned, but to me, what I think is most exciting is what we don't know what's going to happen next in this next wave. The last application windows have been predominantly in rural areas. And the next wave is going to open up spots in urban areas, which are going to reach a whole, many more people and other kinds of communities. And so it's to me, we don't even, it's all, it's not just projection. We know that these great groups are going to get these licenses, and I can't wait to see it happen.
So Liz, what is the real difference between low power FM and full power FM, and what is the difference between these stations?
For us, okay, my programming 8 to 5 Monday through Friday is news and talk, news and public affairs. Primarily it's like social justice programming. At night and on weekends it's music. For us, the primary difference, I think, is everything is done from the bottom up. All decisions are made by committee, by vote. And then the board of directors manages decisions that involve multiple committees. So if a decision by news crosses over into the rights of the music department or to the marketing department or something else, then the board of directors gets involved. But it's not based on one person's taste or understanding of what the radio station is or should be. It's based on the community's understanding of what we can do and what it should be, and programming and voices that need to be heard or genres that need to be heard. And I think more than anything else, we are absolutely not economically driven. We drive to support ourselves and to maintain ourselves, but if we want to add programming that's potentially, no, I don't want to say unpopular, but controversial, we'll do it because it's necessary. If it addresses an issue that's necessary or a genre that's necessary, then we'll do it. And it's not because it makes money for us. A lot of important issues aren't popular. And that's what we need to talk about.
Is there any difference between the sort of religious programming that you would hear on a low power station as opposed to maybe a commercial AM station? Or
this would be, from a Catholic perspective, there's a couple of places that programming would come from. There are larger corporations like Eternal Word Television Network, and they supply some radio programming. So for fledgling stations, for example, that are run by independent Catholic organizations, they would take some chunks of that, as you would from NPR, and fill the day with that. But then part of their radio day would be populated by local messages and local churches and local parishes and local Catholic schools. So it can be an interesting mix. But you don't see that kind of, even the well-funded EWTN is increasingly zeroed out of commercial cable, because there's, as you know, the cable operators would tend to prefer programming they own or control, and they don't own or control EWTN or programming like that. So that may be now the kind of programming you'll hear on low power FM.
Why was it such a battle to get what seems to be such a simple service up and running? And why was there such a fight against it on the part of other broadcasters, even the public broadcasters? Why was there such a fight?
And that's a great question too, and that's one that I kept having to answer before my committee of bishops year after year after year after year, of saying, why is this such the small service that seems to serve such an important need? Why would anybody care? Why would this become a problem among higher paid lobbyists in Washington? And we didn't think it was going to be a problem when we were inventing it in 1999 and 2000. The FCC opened the proposed rulemaking. Everyone had a chance to comment. The engineering rules were hammered out. The rules on ownership were hammered out. We all had a chance. No sooner had those rules gone into effect, it took a matter of weeks before the lobbying organization for broadcasters, the National Association for Broadcasters, swept onto the Hill and informed them that these 3-mile radius stations would interfere with full power AM and FM broadcasting stations. We disagreed, but they had such an enormous amount of lobbyists, and they had such enormous reach that before we could even get in the door of congressmen that summer, the NAB had effectively convinced them that these small radio stations could possibly interfere, and therefore the number of channels available should be shrunk so that there'd be greater physical separation between a small, literally a campus radio station and a full power station.
Which I guess signal interference.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously the engineering was incorrect. So the most we could do at that point was to get Congress to at least establish a path where we could prove our case again, so that the FCC was required to conduct a study to indicate again that the engineering that had been previously put out to the public was accurate and there was no interference. And that took until 2003. But having reestablished the rules by an act of Congress, by a statute, now in 2003 we had to enact a bill to change the statute to bring back the channels. And that was the hard part, because it's a variety of things. The NAB may have felt simply that they needed to establish to its members that they had the power to kill even a friendly little service like this, and I think that was their reasoning. And so they continued to press Congress to not pass any bills allowing more channels for low power FM in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, until 2010. And part of working on the Hill is that you get different staffers who have to be re-educated again and again. But their default argument was the one originally promoted by the NAB. That's the one they remembered. And that's where Prometheus was absolutely essential. They were absolutely dogged. I was ready to say, I give up, Uncle, it's not going to happen. It simply isn't going to happen. And they would not give up. They were there for every meeting, dragging in people from around the country to show what great service this was. Engineers at Prometheus could simply lay out in a simple to understand, manner why this does not interfere. And if it wasn't for Prometheus, this would not have happened. It simply wouldn't have happened.
So how was Prometheus able to continue this fight? I mean, I'm assuming that that members, that church members, donate money to the Catholic Church, and that somehow that money allows the Catholic Church to continue to battle some of these things. But how does Prometheus continue? Like, where does the money come from for you to be able to promote and continue the battle around these things against the NAB, against National Public Radio?
I would have to say that.
How do you do it?
Yeah. Dogged determination. I mean, we're from Philadelphia. We're a pretty scrappy bunch. We do a lot with a little, and thankfully the community of community media activists that are based in Philadelphia were able to draw support from across the country to just keep the pressure on and not give up. You know, at one point, you know, when I first started at Prometheus, we were in the basement of a church with, you know, 8 people to like 2 rooms, everybody cramped in, just like hammering away at this work. So, you know, and I wasn't even there during that policy fight, but that there's just this determination to see it through. The harder and more absurd the restrictions and things that people are coming back and saying, like you know, about the interference and all of this, it almost made it even stronger. Like, okay, we can take this on. We can take this on. We can prove them wrong. We can build support around this. And also, I think the larger field of community radio, it really solidified that, you know, kind of as you said, that these staffers that need to be kind of continuously re-educated about, you know, what changes are being made to this bill. And in the same way, the field of community radio continued to grow, and their supporters were able to kind of work with their community to show, like, this is what we need, and this is why we need it, and these people are working to get it done. We need to join them and pull our forces together. So Prometheus definitely could not have done it without the broad coalition of groups that we worked with. I mean, there really needed to be a bipartisan approach to taking it on, and so it's a testament to community organizing and grassroots outreach to people to just educate them on the issue and make sure it felt relevant to their lives and worth their time and effort and money to pull it off.
Liz, you actually sort of built a place that has now been embraced by the city and by the federal government. You've got a real success story.
I do, and actually my success story, I want to follow what she is saying, in that we, in 2006, 2007, my radio station is WRIR in Richmond, Virginia, we went into a partnership with the City of Richmond. The City of Richmond had received a grant from Homeland Security to partner to form a radio station for the dissemination of emergency information. And then they came to us and said, will you do this? After a series of meetings, they said, you know, will you be our broadcast partner? I took that to Prometheus, and what Pete Treatish did, now they were battling at this time and selling LPFM to Capitol Hill. Pete Treatish said to me, who was with Prometheus, said that our partnership with the City of Richmond and this emergency services contract took the conversation from LPFMs being a bunch of hippies to actually, and this is a quote from Pete, he said, we were perceived as a bunch of hippies, and it made it, it verified the project and what LPFM is able to do community by community, in that it's actually a life-saving device and something that the municipalities and the government can use. And it changed the perception, and we professionalized LPFM in a lot of ways because of this contract, and it was the right place at the right time. You know, we were there, they received the money, we were founding, we knew the right people, and it just all came together, and we were willing to do it. We said, of course, but it proved that LPFM was just more than a bunch of kids who wanted to play music on the radio, that we as citizens are passionate, and we want to talk about our passions, you know, passions for our community.
So but why low power FM in Richmond? Why not another FM station in Richmond? And why isn't radio just sort of old and passé? Isn't everything moving on the internet? Why do we need this service now?
You know, the reality is not everyone has broadband. The reality is not everyone has computer access. Your computer access could be limited to that small period of time that your public library, if you're lucky to have one, is open for that. In my neighborhood, we have only so many computer terminals on Capitol Hill for our local library, and they're used constantly. That's not the way you get breaking news. It's not the way you listen to programming, because that's a limited sliver of time. That radio still reaches everyone. Everyone can afford a radio.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're old, if you're elderly, if you're low income, a radio is something you can afford, and everybody can be reached by radio.
I would also say that, like, I don't know if anyone here has read the comment section on a web page recently or in a internet chat room. It's not exactly the place where I would want to have a civil conversation. And just this past weekend in Philadelphia, after the Zimmerman verdict was announced, there was one station in Philadelphia that interrupted regular programming, a commercial station that interrupted their programming for maybe about an hour and was taking calls. And at the end of the hour, they were, they're clearly, the phone lines were lit up. People wanted to have a conversation. People wanted to talk to one another. They wanted to voice their opinions, their frustrations. They wanted to talk to each other. And at the end of the hour, the broadcasters had to say, we have to go back to our regular programming because we have advertisers and this is all the time we have. And it was heartbreaking to see that be the way that conversation closed. And so I see community radio as being an opportunity to speak to one another and have another kind of moderated conversation that is really with the people that are in your community. And that, sometimes that happens on the internet. That's true. If your community is lucky enough to have broadband or lucky enough to have people that can access it and want to communicate that way. But for other segments of the population that don't have that, that's not the case. And it's crucial for them to be able to have that outlet.
So, and Liz, you devoted a good part of your young life to running a low power FM. So, but why radio? And is your radio station on the internet?
Yeah, we stream too.
So you're on the internet as well.
Yeah.
You're not just broadcasting.
Right.
But I had this hard division between broadcasting and
well, you have to be both now. You do. People pick us up on their smartphones and plug their smartphones when they're out of signal area into their radio in the car. Why radio? As opposed to Twitter. I think, what you were saying about the rarity or the exclusivity of being able to afford having a computer in your home and that everybody has a radio, I think is exactly right. I think every car that is made today still has a radio in it for some reason. When the power goes out, you're not going to be able to use your computer. Granted, smartphones are skewing my answer very much, and smartphones within the last 2 years in this Twitter thing. But 2 years ago, people didn't use their smartphones to listen to the radio or to communicate. If there was an emergency, you can go out and turn on your car. You can't plug in your computer and find out what's happening, or you turn on your radio in your kitchen. But more than that, radio allows for a longer, more personalized, in-depth conversation on an issue. You hear a human being talking. You hear an inflection. You hear sadness. You hear, a tremble. And it's so much more than reading. It's a personal connection. When you're alone in your house, when you're alone in your car, it's a human being. And then, for me, it's always, it's doing something with my mind while I'm doing something with my hands, and so when I'm cooking dinner or filling out paperwork, the radio is on. It's a human connection, and it's thoughts and ideas, and it's not being alone in the world,
So, all right, so I'm watching this and I'm convinced radio is important, that I can actually, run a radio station and actually have a radio station on the internet and actually on a smartphone and other things. Now how do I, Julia, how do I apply for this opportunity? Now, what do I do? Right.
So hope you're all excited. If you're ready to go, we'll get you signed up. First thing you should know is that these non-commercial licenses are awarded by the FCC to nonprofit groups. And so that can be a school, local government entity, a native tribal entity, but they're not granted to individuals. So this opportunity is really a chance for people to look within their community and say, what groups here could really support the operation, and mission of taking on a radio station project. So that's the first thing that one would have to know for your community. To find out if there are frequencies available in your community, Prometheus developed a free tool. It's our zip code finder, and you can find that on any page of our website, which is prometheusradio.org. You can simply type in your zip code and it'll tell you how many frequencies are available. It can't get any simpler than that. And we have more advanced engineering software that is also available for free as well. But the main details is that it's October 15th through the 29th of this year. It's a 2-week period where you would have to submit your application online to the FCC, and that's it. That once that window closes, you know, there are many markets in the United States that will not have any other available space left on the dial. So, you know, we've been saying this is really like the last opportunity because there's been a lot of competition, especially now that these licenses are available in urban markets, in the top 150 radio markets. And so, you know, some of these markets haven't had a locally owned station go on the air in decades. And so this is really it. So we encourage people to come to our website, get free resources from us. We'll answer your questions and try to help move you along the process and get your community prepared to apply, which is again this October.
And Prometheus is doing regular webinars
yes.
on this also? Yes,
we have a series of webinars. They're starting to get increasingly more technical as we start to move through the application. But don't worry, that's what we're here for. We'll help you figure it out. So we have free webinars. We have also a community called radiospark.org, which we created to help the larger field of community radio be able to communicate with one another. So nationwide, people have been chiming in to say, you know what, I can't start a radio station, but I know how to operate a board, or I'm an engineer, or I was a DJ at my college radio station, and I'd love to help out your project. How can I help you? Or I have these resources, or I'm a lawyer and I'd be happy to help you with this part of your application if you need that help. So radiospark.org has been a really great resource for people, community radio enthusiasts to gather and figure out how they can share their skills. We've also reached out to existing community radio stations and LPs to have them upload their station manuals and documents so that there can be a real sharing of information to make this next wave go as smoothly as possible.
So, Catherine, do you have any cautions about the application process?
I think you need to be taking this seriously. I would not like a small organization to think of this as a little project. I mean, this is an application before the FCC. You're going to have to show a certain amount of engineering wherewithal. You're going to have to show financial wherewithal. You're going to have to meet the legal obligations or the legal requirements that you be locally owned, prove that ownership. But that being said, this isn't impossible. I mean, these could be small organizations that have gone through the IRS procedure to get their 501c3. So this is all very doable. But it's a question of being prepared, going through it step by step, and I think especially getting your financial act in order, because that's the first question I get asked when dioceses call, and it's the last question: how much is it going to cost me? How much will it cost to get it running, and how much would it cost to keep it running? You know, and can I do that? And that's another aspect that the FCC is also encouraging. If there are many organizations within a community that has an available channel, encouraging them to work together. This could be a station operated by a number of organizations. There would have to be a certain amount of legal framework for that, but that's very doable. And I think that's something that I'm encouraging people who might even look at a $15,000 financial obligation for the initial setup as a big obligation and are a little afraid of that, to say you don't need to be alone doing this. You know, you could perhaps just donate your talent. You know, if your talent is programming, you could do that and not be the owner. You know, or you could become a part owner. That's all, again, quite doable, because the FCC's requirements are also different for low power than for full power. You don't need to be operating 24 hours a day. You're only operating for a portion of the day for at least 5 days a week, depending on whether you're an educational association or not. You know, and I think there too, schools need to be educated here, because they can certainly, I mean, this service was created with them in mind, as well as other community organizations, and they've certainly got the people power. You know, so I think that's a good place to start, is with existing, you know, educational institutions.